Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Womoney Matters. The person on our show today has the distinction of being Asia's only professional female quizmaster. She's on Business World's 40 under 40 for content creators and has a massive following among school and college going youth. Please welcome Rashmi Furtado, who is co-founder of teachertribe.in and VP at Grey Caps. Thank you so much, Rashmi, for agreeing to be with us today.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here actually. I have been following the work that you have been doing, and I must tell you, uh, you sort of took over something that irritated me for a very long time on why women don't take their financial decisions on their own, and why don't they do anything about wanting to be more aware about finances and financial decisions and investments. So I'm really, really happy that you started something like this. And all the women out there from Street Hun, I think it's wonderful that all of you are opening up. I'm a part of that group as well. So I'm really happy to see the way all of you are opening up, and I'm learning a lot myself. So glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. For the benefit of all of those watching this show, Rashmi, please take us through your journey. We'd like to know about, how you started out and how did you reach where you are today.
Okay, so honestly, as a child, I never knew what I wanted to do. In my schooling, I knew that I didn't want to pursue sciences,
Mhm.
so I ensured that I don't take up science. I just took up commerce. Thing is, for a long time, up until my even my post graduation, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was very
Right.
confused, and something that I knew was there were certain areas that I did not want to pursue. So sort of, I say this always, follow the rule of elimination when you don't know what you want to do. So I did that with myself. So I knew what I didn't want to do with my life.
Right.
Um, Grey Caps and being a quiz host just happened in my life actually. So I initially started as a recruiter. Actually, no
Okay.
one knows the story. I was recruiting chartered accountants for Nomura and KPMG.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so life takes a full circle. See, I'm talking to you today.
Totally.
So I used to recruit chartered accountants. I did that for a while. The thing with me, Aarti, is the moment the learning curve stops, and I've gone through the entire learning curve,
Mhm.
I start getting a little bored with what I'm doing.
Right.
I don't like to do anything just because I'm supposed to do it. I need to enjoy it. I need to learn a lot of things when I go through my work. So after a while, I into teaching. And when I was very little, I once told someone that I want to be a teacher. And it was very fulfilling. And
Mhm.
I felt very content in the
Yeah.
education sector. Uh, but I again wanted more. There was a voice in me that kept telling that, okay, that's not it. You got to do something more.
Mhm.
And I had interned at Grey Caps back when I was studying at NIT. And I happened to meet Big Brain at a quiz at Tata Crucible at Manipal. My students were taking part, so I was just there. Somehow we got talking, and he was like, "Why don't you just join us, and we'll see where it goes?" And we cut a deal. We were like, "Okay, we're going to try it for 3 months. We see how it works for both of us,
Mhm.
and then we'll take it forward." But after 3 months, we never had that conversation, and close to 10 years now,
The rest,
and
as we say, is history.
yes.
Wow.
So
Rashmi, so you mentioned, how you moved industries literally, right? Because recruitment to teaching, to becoming a quiz host and content creator, right? To becoming an entrepreneur in your own right with Teacher Tribe. Um, it's been a lot of jumping. Now, typically, in my experience, when a woman does that, it's not looked upon very favorably. You hear a lot of comments like, "Oh, she doesn't know what she wants. She's not headed anywhere in life." So, have you also faced that, and how have you dealt with it?
not to sound like a feminazi here, but I know when men do that, people take it as, okay, he's very growth oriented and he wants
Yeah,
to, he's working towards his larger goal that he has in life and things like that. But when it comes to women, the judgment is pretty quick.
yeah,
And it's not only done by men, it's done by women too. we women sometimes don't support each other as much as we should, right?
Yes.
We should be treating each other as sisters, so but we don't do that. I have seen that happening, yes. In my case, though, I have a very supportive family.
Mm-hmm.
They knew from a very young age that I wouldn't do something which is run of the mill.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't take up a known career. I mean, a quiz host career is not a known career in our country at all, or in the world.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
My mother always told us, both of us sisters, she would tell, your father and I may not be alive tomorrow. What are you guys going to do if that happens? You cannot
Right.
always be dependent on us to take your decisions or to support you. You've
Mm.
got to be able to stand on your own and
Right.
live your life the way you want to live. Uh, One more rule that I went by, Aarti, was never to regret. I do not like regretting at all. Even if it is a wrong decision, at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, I know it's my decision. I've learned my lesson and I move forward. I don't beat myself up on it. I do feel bad. Yes, I'm a human being, but I don't beat myself up on it.
That's
So, in
very
terms of my,
profound, Rashmi, because
yeah,
one thing that I think I associate with a lot of women, and in fact, generally with women, is the word regret. We keep second guessing ourselves. And like you said, I don't want to sound like a feminazi, but if we make a wrong decision, we get like crucified for it. I think 10x as compared to, a male in our positions. So,
yes.
I think on that note, I just want to ask you another question. Like, you've also been a lone warrior in a highly male dominated field. Like when you talk about, content creation, and you talk about the quizzing industry also, okay? These are again heavily male dominated, although they're related to the teaching profession where women dominate. Okay.
Right.
So how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure you travel a lot as well for your work. I mean, you do shows all over the world, all over Asia as well. So how do you deal with, that part of it?
See, initially, when you're a newcomer to any industry, and that too when you take up a role which is very visible in the public eyes, in the public space, people will put you under the magnifying glass. They'll put you under the microscope, right?
Absolutely.
Not necessarily to judge you, but just to figure out, okay, let's see how well she does. I mean, let's see if she can even live up to our expectations or not.
Yeah.
It took, I think, almost close to a year for people to accept me in the role that I had taken up. But over the years, quizzers honestly have been very supportive. There used to be a lot of hooting in the crowd earlier. That used to happen. I mean, you don't associate that to an event like quiz, but when there's a crowd which is more than 1,000, it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how you conduct yourself.
Hmm.
So with the audience, it has been that way. But now they're so forthcoming. The girls, especially, uh, this, they are so happy to see me on stage, and I feel so much. I feel a huge responsibility when I see girls responding to me that way. So it's been great, actually.
Absolutely. So are you saying that as an industry, the knowledge industry is probably a better place for a woman than maybe elsewhere? Is that probably the reason why you've not faced as much of bigotry or as much of discrimination?
Yes and no. Yes, because yes, as an industry, we think differently.
Yeah.
It's when we are in the knowledge industry, it is all to do with our brains. So brain has no gender. Secondly, there is one more stereotyping that happens sometimes. Okay, she must have someone who's like a godfather or godmother who's making way for her. But over a period of time, when you really put in the hard work and people see that you are traveling 40 cities in 60 days and things like that, and putting in all the effort, then people really start valuing what you're bringing to the table. It takes some time,
Yeah.
definitely takes some time, but you got to just focus on what you have to do,
So
and
you're saying
that
that,
kept me going.
the first few years are always harder, right? Until you've created that niche for yourself. Having a
Yes.
thick skin then is very critical to your success, because the first few years you will receive, snide remarks and judgment. But if you stick to your job and do a good job, you can overcome all of that, because eventually your work will speak for itself, right?
Yes, yes. There's one more thing here, Ati. My perspective has been very different when it comes to remarks. Okay, snide or not is a different issue, but criticisms, let me take it that way. One, I take a criticism as an area of improvement, because at the end of the day, it's my audience who should be telling me, how good I am and how bad I am.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, if someone is really commenting about you, good or bad, one should know that you have basically occupied some amount of space in their mind.
That is
That
so
is
true,
something.
because people, I mean, the fact that someone's talking about you tantamounts to, you having done something worth noticing, right? And I
Yes.
think that is something that women get so bogged down by, that, oh, why is everybody talking negative things about me? I think we need to just be able to chin up and say, if they're talking about me, I must have done something right, because otherwise they wouldn't notice what I'm doing wrong.
Yes.
And that is so important. I think, that's a message I want to
Absolutely.
pass to all the women who are listening, that, if people are talking about you, please remember you must have done something right. It's not all bad. So, Rashmi, now you're on Business World's 40 under 40. You are Asia's most accomplished female quiz master, maybe the only one. What more from here? I mean, how do you see yourself growing?
As far as my personal or individual growth is concerned, there is there is an interest, or there is an intention of studying further. Higher studies, I know at this point in time, uh, for me, it would most probably be abroad. And
Okay.
I know at this stage, higher studies will have certain amount of expenditure that comes along with it.
Yeah, yeah,
So I have to ensure that I fund my own studies.
yeah,
And
obviously.
for that, yeah, so those are some of the financial goals that I have. So I am working towards it. I'm saving up, I'm investing. Something that I learned, I attended a couple of investment awareness programs, and something that I learned there was every investment that you have, especially something like a SIP and things like that, ensure that you have one goal attached to it. So you
Mhm.
keep growing on that investment as you progress, because that helps you and that takes you closer to the goal that you have. Some
Rashmi, can I safely say that you've sort of linked your financial goals also to your life goals in a way? Because what I'm hearing right now, you're saying effectively, like, for example, based on what you learned, you sort of understood that if you want to, for example, study abroad, okay, you need to put a certain amount of money towards it. That's one thing that you're doing, right? Rashmi, you're just talking about how you've sort of allocated some amount of your savings towards building a corpus or a fund for your future study goals, right? So you clearly sorted in your mind about that you're linking your financial goals to your life goals, right? So definitely, like, one thing is your further education, but on what basis have you determined the diversification of your portfolio? Like, how have you decided that, okay, this much money I want to put away for this much money I want to put away for that? Process, what has shaped your investment strategy?
It's been life experience, Ati. As a family, at a very young age, we went through a lot of financial difficulty. So I learned at that point in time that you need to have some amount of money for yourself to be used on a rainy day. That's required.
Mm-hmm.
So I have kept that in mind,
Mm-hmm.
and let me put it this way: I like to be probably termed under as a calculated risk taker. There are certain amount of safe investments that I have, which
Mm-hmm.
I know where I know I at least won't lose the money that I have invested.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there is a chunk that goes into that, and then the remaining chunk, that some amount of it goes into things like mutual funds. Uh, Getting into the stock market would be the next step for me.
As a woman, okay, who's juggling so many roles, and as someone who is so fiercely independent in her thought process, what do you think is the single biggest roadblock that you face, and how do you think that I mean, you've worked towards overcoming it? Because, see, who we are doesn't always translate to reality. Like, what we feel about ourselves doesn't really manifest always, right? So how have you built that bridge from your thought process to your actions?
I might sound very different today, but I didn't have the confidence in myself to take the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
Neither did I have the clarity of thought to take the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the biggest difficulty that I faced in life. When I overcame that, the other decisions sort of fell in place.
Mm-hmm.
And the decisions that I took Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a calculated risk taker. So I always ensure that I take smaller decisions, see how it works, see if my thought process has actually paid off in that particular decision that I've taken, and then slowly advance towards bigger decisions in life. Even when it comes to financial decisions, that is what I have done.
I always believe that money talks, right? And as mundane and as uh, what can I materialistic as that sounds, okay, it is a reality that unless you are someone who is making money for yourself, your opinion will not matter in a setting, okay, and that setting could be
Right.
at a workplace or in your family environment or elsewhere. So Rashmi, what would be your parting advice to the women who are watching this?
For people, as human beings, we have this tendency, if she has not done anything by herself for herself, and she has no her own money or her own wealth, how is she able to give advice to others?
Absolutely.
So it's as simple as that. There's nothing materialistic about what you've said. My parting advice to all the women out there would be, do not doubt yourself. It's okay even if you make mistakes. It's completely fine. Mistakes actually get you to learn better. They always do. And honestly, as women, we always are a little more intuitive. And that helps us when it comes to our financial decisions.
Yeah.
I have noticed that with many, many women around me. So trust your intuition. Don't think about yourself as I've never done this before in my life. How do I get myself to do it? Just take the first step. Have some women around you who will support you through all of this. I'm not saying men don't support, men also support. I have had men in my life who support me. But it's helpful to have women around you just like you. So all of you can together take the step forward towards the decisions you take for yourself. So it only the first step that you take, that is what matters. After that, believe me, you'll have so much of confidence and so much of clarity of thought that you will be unstoppable.
Uh, Thank you so much, Rashmi. That's I think the kind of advice that would resound with all the young women out there who really are trying to figure out what is it that they want in life. And I think what you've conveyed today is very clearly three things for me. One, that you don't necessarily have to start out knowing what your destination is. Life itself, because it's a journey. It's something we should embark upon with some degree of optimism. Secondly, it's okay to make mistakes because we make mistakes when we do, right? And unless we do, we can't learn more. And thirdly, I think, for me, a very key message, and especially because this is the Sridhan platform, is that financial independence is a cornerstone to personal independence. Both do go hand in hand. And I think to be an independent individual, to be financially independent is also equally important. So thank you so much, Rashmi, for your time. I'm really
Absolutely.
privileged that you were on our show today. And hopefully all of you all also shared in our insights and got to learn as much as I did from Rashmi Furtado. Thank you so much, Rashmi, for joining us. It was really a pleasure having you on Womoney Matters.
Thank you, Aarti. It's been wonderful being here, and I'm looking forward for a lot more videos from you to learn more about.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. Thank you.